me why we shouldn't kill you now.
Oh man, so the Dragon Age series, I have very mixed feelings about that. For the first one, I like the story but not the combat. For the second game, I like the combat but not the story. This time around is more like the blend of the two. It's not as actiony as 2, but you can do more action than just like sitting and watching a guy punch something like in an MMO. But at the same time, it's not as stoic as the first game, but you can issue commands and tactics. Anytime, if you want to, you pause the game and you go into this basically slow down time if you want to, or stop the time completely. And if you line up all of your attacks and then basically hit the trigger button, it'll fast forward time and everything will play out. It's a very, very cool game, though I never use it that much because it's not too challenging as a game, especially because the open area allows for a lot of grinding because there's tons and tons of quests. There's a lot to do in this game, but let's go back and talk about what this game is about. So you are basically... it kind of picks off right where this second game leaves off, where there is a giant portal that opens up in the sky, and demons are raining down on you. You somehow get this magical hand now to basically interact with these rifts. It's very Elder Scrolls Oblivion in that way, where you're going across the world in order to close these rifts. And eventually there comes a twist where once you, do the whole, I'm going to close the big rift and, seal off all the other ones, there's a twist that I don't really want to get into, but it's about 10 hours where things open up beyond where you think the story is going to go. And then later on, it opens up again, and it's just crazy. It is a, kind of a slow start to the game, but once you get past that first kind of third of the game, that first hump, then it's like, well, it really does kind of blow your mind to understand, like, everything from the first game. The second game kind of are melding together, and you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. It's a fantasy genre, and it's, a lot of tropes in there as well, but that doesn't mean it's not good. There's just some original stuff in there, but I mean, like, the really selling point is not the narrative, it's the characters, and putting them in a party, doing side quests for them. All the voice acting is really, really good, and that makes you want to play the game more and more. But let's get back to the actual gameplay. So, like any kind of open world RPG, you basically have this map of the entire area where you can like send out 3 members of your console to, I would say, get information. Sometimes that information will get you experience and gold and other kinds of rewards. Sometimes it'll open up a new area where you're able to explore these places. Kind of like how it was in 2, where you basically travel to you have your hub city, and then you travel to a different place by clicking in area menu in order to go there. Whereas, a lot of open world RPGs like Skyrim, let's take for example, it's all one big world and you're just traveling around in it. This one is secluded off where you are in this big city, and you're basically your keep in order to protect yourself from the evils out there, and you're gathering people to make your keep stronger, to build alliances, and it really does feel like you're building this war. I think they definitely learned a lot of lessons from Mass Effect, because it reminded me a lot of Mass Effect 2, where you are Shepard, you're a Shepard type character, and you're gathering forces in order to stop the big bad. And that's what this game is, gathering forces. And it doesn't feel like you are this... I mean, they play it a lot because you are this chosen one. But it also shows you that, like, yeah, you're the chosen one, but he or she knows that they generally can't do it by themselves, and the council tells them, you can't do this by yourself, so you need to recruit all these armies and become like a king and lead this giant army against another giant army. And it's pretty cool that way to show that you are very important and a crucial stake in the war, but you are important to win the war because you have influence over the other people, and you have this power to basically have people join you. So that's why you are important, essentially. And it makes it so it's not just like, let's go, stop the destruction of the evil end of the world. And in that way, it is a much better story in those regards as well. But you're going to these different areas. And they're very, very rare, from like, swamps to like big open farmlands to just dank caves. And all these areas are very fleshed out with a lot of quests and a lot of interesting places to explore. And you really do want to explore everything, even though a lot of those quests are to hunt these things or gather these herbs or whatever. But they can't really not do that. I mean, that's what RPGs are, kind of. And, a lot of the quests are not that interesting. It would have been nice, instead of having more quests, to have just less quests with actually more story things tied into them. And even though they give these things stories like, oh no, my sheep ran away, you better get those sheep, and then telling you why those sheep are important or whatever, it's not that interesting compared to some other stuff that happens in the game. But overall, even with its glitches, yes, I will say that, all games nowadays are broken in terms of, especially Ubisoft games. But man, November was a bad day, or a bad month for broken games. And the same can be said for this. Many times my system crashed, many times my system didn't load properly, sometimes I got stuck in a dialogue tree where I couldn't get out of it. Very, very weird things. Despite that, it is still an awesome, awesome game.
Blah, blah, blah. Obey me. Arrow in my face.
Boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe.